He's back. Phil Jurkovec returns to Boston College and leads the Eagles to their first ACC win. We're going to talk all about this game today on Locked On Boston College.
You are Locked On Boston College, your daily podcast on the Boston College Eagles, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This is Locked On Boston College. I am your host, AJ Black. We are here to talk about the BC and Virginia Tech game held on Friday. It was the Red Bandana game. And guess what, Boston College fans? The BC Eagles are back in the win column, winning 17-3. And why did that happen? Well, quarterback Phil Jurkovec returned from a hand and wrist injury after missing the last 6 games due to that injury. It was a surprise. No one knew he was coming back. There was buzz all around throughout the day that he might return, but nothing real. And then all of a sudden, right before the game kicks off, about 15 minutes, BC football releases a tweet that says, "I'm back." Jurkovec leads the team out onto the field, and boom. It felt like everything had changed. It was the Red Bandana game. It was against a rival in Virginia Tech, and you had Jurkovec back. And immediately, everything looked different. Now, Jurkovec, his job in this game, he obviously wasn't 100%. He struggled to throw the ball at different points, but, a little ring rust, that's okay. But when he got back out there, his leadership brought Boston College to some big plays. And it happened big time. I think it was the second drive in the first quarter. Jurkovec goes back to pass. He tries to hit Luchetti in the corner. He throws an interception he missed by about 2 or 3 feet and underthrew it. Guy undercut it, picked it off. However, Jurkovec, Jalen Gill, they're flying to that ball. Jalen Gill knocks the ball out. Jurkovec gets it back. A couple plays later, Jurkovec is helicoptering into the end zone. A play that really took my breath away because, I don't want to see him getting hurt again, but shows you just how tough he is. So Jurkovec gets out there, he does that. And then he just, I can't even explain how impressive both sides of the ball for Boston College was. The defense was crisp. They, Virginia Tech loses their starting quarterback, Braxton Burmeister, on the second drive of the game. They bring in Knox Kadum, who just does not get anything done because BC's defense is all over him. They're playing great in coverage. They're hitting their tackles. They're not letting any big plays happen. This was the complete opposite of the nightmare in Blacksburg that BC had in 2020 because this defense, they showed up and they played hard and they won that game. They got off the field, let the offense do their thing, and BC just ran a power running game that punished Virginia Tech up in the trenches, and they just took care of business. BC wins 17-3. It's their first win in the ACC. A huge monkey off the back, and it really changes the whole complexion of the season looking ahead. All of a sudden, we're not worried about it anymore between Dennis Grosel and Emmett Moorhead. They can sit and they can develop. That's great. You don't have to worry about them. Instead, we're heading into the Georgia Tech game this week, probably as a favorite because Boston College is playing so well. No longer is this defense asked to do everything because you have Phil Jurkovec out there who can run those 6 to 7 minute drives, which he did a couple times last night, and it keeps the defense nice and fresh. They get out there, they make plays, they win games. So Boston College, this was a huge, huge win and a big game. Obviously you want to win the Red Bandana game any chance that you get, and they did just that. Jurkovec, he finished with 112 yards passing. He was intercepted once, but he had a rushing touchdown, and he made a bunch of plays with his legs. I think that was the thing that really struck me was the plays that you would see Grosel make a bad pass or Moorhead kind of turtle because he just didn't know what to do yet. Jurkovec just was like shrugging it off, making, positive plays out of nothing. So here's who I need to give credit for to this game because there were so many different pieces that played so well. Patrick Garwo in that rushing offense with that offensive line played exceptionally well. And that defense, we're going to talk about all of that with Mitch Wolfe in just a moment because it was an impressive outing all around for the Eagles as they improved to 5-4. Now with that win, they just need to win one more game and they're bowl eligible. And I know some of you don't really care because it's whatever small bowl that they're going to get into probably. But think of this. You saw the difference between BC with Jurkovec and BC without. How nice would it be for the Eagles to win out? And it's not that impossible. I think they could easily earn wins against Georgia Tech and Florida State. I'm not saying it's going to be easy, but they're going to be right there with them. And then they end the season at home against Wake Forest, a team that just lost, that doesn't play a lick of defense. So it's going to be interesting. BC, I know Wake Forest is not undefeated, but how nice would it be to go 8-4? That's around what we said could happen. There's a lot of football to be played, but all of a sudden, the outlook of the season has completely changed. The dreariness, the doldrums of, this team is going in the wrong direction. The Eeyore takes on everything, which I get. It was hard to watch. It's gone. You can be excited about BC football again. The quarterback is there, and he makes all the world of difference on the offensive side and helps the defense because the defense doesn't have to do everything. It's going to be so much fun to get through these next 3 weeks. I can't wait to talk more about it with you as we go along. In a moment, we're going to be joined by Mitchell Wolfe, who's going to tell us his thoughts on the offense. But I want to tell you about PrizePicks. All right, college football fanatics, have you heard about PrizePicks? PrizePicks is a daily fantasy sports made easy. I love this, and I know you will too. I have been getting into PrizePicks. It's so much fun. Basically, what you do is you pick some players, you pick the over and under, and maybe you pick a mid-major or a major school, Power 5, and you can think any prop you can think of, yards, touchdowns, even interceptions, throws. You just pick the over and under projections, and you can win up to 10 times on any entry. And it's just you versus the projected numbers. PrizePicks allows mixed sports entry, so you could pick Mac Jones and Phil Jurkovec. Have a little fun with it. Use the award-winning app on both the App Store and Google Play. Entries can be made in 60 seconds or less. It's that easy. I'm telling you, I've played all sorts of daily fantasy sports. PrizePicks is the best. It's really fun. You got to check it out. Make sure that you sign up today and use Locked On for your sign-up code. You'll receive $100 bonus, on any deposit made up to $100. So you put $50, they're going to give you $50 to play with. It's a lot of fun. You need to check that out. Head over to PrizePicks.com and use promo code Locked On, or go to your app store and download the app today. PrizePicks is daily fantasy made easy. This is Locked On Boston College. AJ Black here. I am joined, as always, on Mondays by Mitch Wolfe. Mitch is a staff writer for BC Bulletin and does a whole bunch of other things he'll tell you about at the end of the show. Mitch, how's it going?
Going great. Back in the win column again. Really fun, exciting game on Friday night. And then a nice, stress-free Saturday, which was also great.
I kind of dig, as someone who covers college football, having a Friday night game, because then Saturday I can just hang out and do other things and not have to worry about covering BC football.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
right.
Definitely.
Yeah. I mean, so, in the first segment, we talked all about the drama of Friday. There was, there was tea leaves out there saying, Jurkovec's going to play, but nothing substantial. And you couldn't go with any of the rumors you heard. It was like all people with like 15 followers on Twitter saying, oh, they're going to come, he's going to play. And you're like, okay, yeah, that's great, but can't go on that. And then, 15 minutes before the game, you get the Michael Jordan tweet with the I'm back, and Jurkovec comes out. From your perspective, how excited were you, and what were your thoughts about his overall play?
Well, I think props to Jason Baum and everybody at BC Athletics for a masterful job of stringing this along. And obviously they didn't really even know that this was happening until midweek based on what Jurkovec said in the post-game press conference. But obviously, like you said, tea leaves, smoke, whatever you want to call it. It seemed like it wasn't really legit, or like maybe it would happen next week, given that he would have a full week of practice. But, having him come out and getting those tweets that it was actually happening was super exciting. And, I think we'll talk about it, but I think it was pretty clear that hand is not 100% yet, but it's a pretty sorry state of affairs that 75% or what have you, Jurkovec is significantly better than a 100% Dennis Grosel or Emma Moorhead.
Yeah, I mean, it was clear watching him throw the ball. He was struggling a little bit, but as Hafley said after the game, he mentioned that Jurkovec didn't get a chance to practice all week, and that he kind of forced him on Friday to say, "Hey, I'm ready to play." So I'm excited. Even more excited about, that they won, which is great. Obviously ending a 4-game losing streak, getting your first ACC win off your back. That's big. But the fact that Jurkovec is going to continue to get better, I think, and he's just his hand's going to strengthen, and that offense is going to improve, because even with him at 75%, you can see Cignetti's offense working tailor-made for him. So Mitch, let's talk about the offense first. We talked about Jurkovec. The second part that was equally as impressive was the offensive line. Tell me your thoughts about the way they played.
I thought it was a masterful game. I mean, it's pretty incredible that, Zion Johnson can kick out to left tackle, a really tough position and one that BC has struggled with the last few weeks. And you didn't really hear his name once, which is what you want from offensive line. You don't want to hear his name at all. So, pretty much he pitched a perfect game. Christian Mahogany is an absolute dog out there. I mean, he's, like I've been saying, he's like the younger guy on this offensive line, but he was just mauling dudes in the run game. Ozzy Trapilo, he did get some commendation. And when I watched it back, there were some plays he missed, but, it's his first start. So I'll give him a break, but he played pretty well for most of the game. But yeah, I mean, the offensive line looked great. I think you could tell that the entire team was just buoyed by Jurkovec coming back. Like there was just a new swagger, a new confidence. They're like, okay, like we can win with this guy. Like we can go out and we can beat teams pretty soundly. And like I said, I think I'll return to Jurkovec just because it is super important. And like I think there were only maybe like 3 of his passes that I was like, okay, but that hand's not there. But a lot of it also could just be, he had like 2 days of practice. And, if you get him a full week of reps with the ones, I think a lot of those issues might kind of go away.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I don't want to like downplay his play because the way he was able to make some of those plays. The run that he made for a touchdown made my heart stop because it was, but he said it after the game. That's the way he plays. We're gonna have to live with it. And he just continued like some of those plays that Gorsell would get hit or that Moorhead just didn't know what to do when they were coming at him. Jurkovec just knew what to do. He just shook them off, was able to move the pocket, and it makes BC's offense so much more effective when he can do that. And, his leadership, the way you totally brought it up, like all of the like issues about like sloppiness, penalties, it seemed to all kind of just go away in this game. BC just played a strong game. They beat up a team that was clearly not playing well, and they got the W.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, some of those plays are a little, they're a little fluky, like, obviously that interception he throws that then he recovers the fumble. And, some of the plays where he was able to break tackles, those might not be replicable, as a process over results kind of guy. But yeah, definitely just great to see him out there. And like you said, like, I mean, the play that I thought was the best was I think one of his first throws to Jalen Gill, where they ran that Yankee play that they've been trying with everybody for weeks. And, he didn't throw the deep shot there, but he finally, he hits Gill on the over route. And then he had 2 great deep throws to Zay and Gill again. So, just having that aspect of the offense back, we saw the running game, the yards per carry aren't spectacular, but, the run game was working quite well, I would say, throughout the majority of the game.
And, in terms of his presence and what it did, the play that I thought really showed like how into this game that team was. And like, they're not checked out like some people had thought for the year, was his interception. The fact that Jalen Gill went in there and just punched that ball out. Like he didn't, like so many wide receivers would just give up on that play and just, pout and walk off or like not really put a full effort. He went right in there, and then Jurkovec is right there to recover the fumble. It just shows you the energy that they have and the respect that they have for each other, that, even on plays that it's a bad play and that was a bad pass. And Jurkovec mentioned it after the game, that that's what it was. They still didn't give up. And I think that is exciting for the last 3 games.
Yeah. And on that play, like when I was watching it, they had a good angle of it on the replay where he's rolling to his right. So that's a tough throw to make. And I liked his decision because Luchetti would have been open in the back of the end zone. So, in a few weeks, if that happens again, he might hit him. And I think on that play, if Gill doesn't punch that out, Jurkovec is flying down the field. He might just wallop the defensive back and cause the fumble himself. So yeah, I mean, it's great to have him back.
So one quick question before we get into the defense, which is again, another incredible performance we'll talk about. I heard some grumbling, and I like to hear what people think, that some people were upset that Jurkovec came back because that means that he's not coming back next year. Mitch, I know you're into the NFL draft, into scouting. Give the perspective of what you think really is going through Jurkovec's head right now.
I don't think that's the reason why he, quote, rushed back. I did see something that's like, this injury takes typically about 8 weeks to heal, and we're right in that we're right under that threshold. And I just don't see how him rushing back to play 4, maybe 5 games against, not the best of the ACC, unless, and like I said, like he would need to play like unconscious levels of football, like Joe Burrow 2019 levels, in every one of these games, to be like, all right, I'm going to ride this high into the draft season. I just don't see that happening. I think that, he's going to get better each game, but I don't think he's going to be, just throwing it all around the yard for like 400 yards and 5 touchdowns a game where he's looking like a perfect prospect. There are still some flaws in his game, and he looked really, really fun on Friday night, but I just don't see, that doesn't make much sense to me. I think he's definitely coming back next year. He does have 1 more year of eligibility. I think he wants a full year where, I think a good amount of the guys who can come back, like Zay, they'll come back next year because they also want like a full year with him. And I think he wants a full year of ACC competition with a team that, next year the defense should get even better. The offensive line is going to lose some players, but, they've shown that the depth is there and they can develop players. So, I think the team has a pretty good chance of being just as, if not as good next year.
All right. And that was a great conversation. And talking about great things, I like Built Bar. If you haven't tried a Built Bar by now, you are missing out. They say it's a protein bar, but it does not taste like one. You have to try one of these amazing bars yourself. They're 100% covered in chocolate, and they are delicious. I have one every day around 2:30. My wife has one. I now have to buy 2 boxes of Built Bars every time I order because she wants one and I get one. They're that good. Built Bars are low carb, low calorie, low sugar, and high in protein, and the flavors are delicious. Again, I'm telling you, they do not taste like a protein bar. You need to check these out. Another great thing about Built Bar, the flavors, if you have not tried some, you can get a mix box that has a whole variety of these, such as coconut, raspberry, mint brownie, coconut almond, salted caramel, double chocolate, and cherry barcia. I'm getting hungry right now just talking about them. Head on over to BuiltBar.com and use promo code LOCK15 and you'll receive 15% off your order. Again, use promo code LOCK15 for 15% off at BuiltBar.com. This is AJ Black. We are dissecting the Virginia Tech win. 17-3, Boston College defeats the Hokies at Alumni Stadium at the Red Bandana game. And obviously, all of the talk out of this game was about Phil Jurkovec. Everyone wants to talk about him returning, and how that changes Boston College's momentum and really gets them, back into the talk for bowl season. But now that the offense is clicking, you got to see what the defense really could look like. You got to see a defense that wasn't stressed, that didn't have to be out there and fell apart in the third quarter because they've been asked to do so much. Mitch, talk about the defense from from Friday night, excuse me.
I mean, the defense looked awesome from top to bottom. I think I was saying that this is probably BC's most complete game since week 1 in terms of their offense and defense. And, we've talked a lot about how the offensive struggles have led the defense to be on the field too much. And like you did say that they weren't as tired in the second half. And I mean, if you even look at the drive chart, BC only scored on their first drive out of the half, and then every other drive ended on a punt, basically. So, the defense did have to go out there, but they forced punts themselves. They forced a big fumble, which should have been a defensive touchdown, but the refs blew it dead too early. But, Jason Baum actually just tweeted that some of BC's rankings in terms of their defensive stats, they're number 6 in the country in passing yards allowed, number 9 in third down defense, number 18 in scoring defense, number 19 in red zone defense, number 21 in pass efficiency defense, and number 29 in total defense in terms of yards. So, and I think we do have to take some of these numbers, especially from last night, with a grain of salt, because Virginia Tech lost their quarterback, Braxton Burmeister, pretty early. I think it was the second drive. So they had to play with a freshman Knox Kadum. They also lost their center at some point during the game. And before the game, they lost their number 1 wide receiver, Trey Turner. So the Hokies were a little banged up, but even so, they were running pretty much the same offense with Knox Kadum and everybody played super well. I mean, Vinny DePalma had one of his best games. Cam Arnold played really well. The secondary was playing unbelievable levels of football. Like Josh DeBerry was making plays all over the field. Jaden Wood made a great game. Elijah Jones had another great game. Even though they're missing Brandon Sebastian, they were playing absolutely incredible for another week in a row. Honestly, that's 2, even 3 weeks if you want to count the Louisville game, where the BC passing defense has been awesome.
Yeah, I mean, I want to give credit to the defense because they're a team, and they played at a level that I did not expect them to do that this year. And Josh DeBerry, I wrote about him in my notes after the game, that he's turning himself into a very attractive NFL draft pick. I think the way he's able to do a million different things on the field, they can line him out outside, they can line him on the nickel. He can do it all. And teams are NFL teams are going to salivate over him.
Yeah, I mean, if we want to talk about a guy that, BC fans should maybe be worried about leaving early, like I could see if DeBerry keeps playing like this, he plays like this through the end of the season, and we get a bowl game and he has a big bowl game, it wouldn't shock me to see him leave, because I think he's a redshirt junior, so he'll ostensibly have his degree, and he's coming off, a string of awesome performances in a defense that is asking him to do a lot in a lot of different ways. So, I could see him be like, hey, like, I've got the hot hand here. Like if I come back next year, I might get hurt, or I might put out some bad tape. Like, I'm going to, strike while the iron is hot, if you will. So, that'd be the one player, if I had to pick on BCU, I'd be worried about leaving early. I would say it's Josh DeBerry.
And I love that they're doing all of this without really having much of a pass rush still. They had 2 sacks, but they still do not have that star defensive end or frontline presence that can really be a menace to a quarterback. Guys like we've seen in the past, like Harold Landry, Zach Allen. I mean, you can go back in like BJ Raji, things like that. Mm-hmm. They don't have anyone like that right now.
Yeah, definitely. And like TJ Ram's a good run stuffer. Same with Brandon Barlow, underrated player, like is not getting a ton in pass rush, but very solid run defender. Marcus Valdez can make some splash plays. But one of the sacks was Josh DeBerry on a nickel blitz. So yeah, I mean, the pass rush is kind of, they're lucky they're playing some quarterbacks that aren't great passers, so that's helping. But yeah, I mean, defense top to bottom has been really impressive these last few weeks.
I mean, if you look at the schedule moving ahead, there's 3 more games, and they're going to finish, I think, the top ACC pass defense in the conference. They have Sam Hartman, which is going to be a challenge. I know they lost yesterday, but on Saturday, but they're still a good defense, and offense, and they're going to show a lot. But you look at Georgia Tech, you look at Florida State, this defense should be able to still feed off of both of those teams, I think.
I would agree. I mean, those two teams have been putting up points. Like Georgia Tech put up 30 some points on Miami. They have the ability to score, but BC did a good job against Jeff Sims in 2020. I'm not really scared of Florida State's passing defense that much, even with they're kind of switching between McKenzie Milton, Jordan Travis. I'd be worried about Jordan Travis as a running threat, because he kind of gives you that same profile as Malik Cunningham, so that would concern me. But, with the way this team is playing right now, firing on all cylinders with Jurkovec back, I think that, the bowl game is definitely, on the horizon, and, maybe getting to 7 or 8 wins might also be in the cards.
All right. Yep. And that's kind of how we're going to wrap this up. Mitch, thank you. Where can people find you on social media?
You can find me at Mitchell T. Wolfe, WOLFE on Twitter. That's pretty much where I'm posting all of my takes, my work, my video analysis of everything BC football and college and NFL in general.
All right. Thank you, Mitch. This is AJ Black. You can find me on Twitter at AJ Black_BC. We'll be back with Mitch tomorrow to talk about some of the games around the country. We'll talk about one local team that is joining the pool of schools looking for new head coaches. We'll talk a little bit about that, and we'll get into everything about this game. AJ Black here. Follow us on Twitter, at AJ Black_BC or Locked On BC, and make sure you hit that subscribe button to get all of our episodes. Thank you all for listening, and we'll see you all again soon. Take care, everyone.